and you kind of realize that as unique as all of our childhoods are, that they're pretty much standard.
Mm,
But it all comes down ultimately to family. You
mm,
know, it really all comes down to that. Uh, how you see the world, how strong you are, how resilient you're going to be, how empathetic you are, how loving you're going to be. Um, all these things are, some of them are characteristics which are kind of innate, but how they play out is very much the love and the strength that we get from our mother and father, or mother and father figures.
right. Does that ever, if you think about that, like from a meta level, from a philosophical level, does that ever like trip you out a little bit in that the randomness of that? Like so much of who you are, literally, Roifield, that I'm talking to, and the value, the family, was in so many ways random. Like you didn't choose it, nobody chose it. It was a roll of the dice by the universe, and you ended up there. Had you ended up in a different country, different family situation, different context, it, I don't think you'd be a completely different person, but as you're articulating, like somewhat different. How do you grapple with that when you think about life? Does that do anything to you about your view of life and the randomness of it
Um,
or the meaning of it?
well, it makes me think that, because I don't believe that God is a man on a golden throne with a big white flowing beard. Um, I think we all have the spark of the divine within us, and I think we're all cosmic stardust. You
Mm,
know, I think the Big Bang happened, and um, we share the entities which are essential for the building blocks of the universe, and they're all within us. And when we pass, we go back into the universe, quite literally.
mhm,
Um, so we are incredibly unique in terms of the chance of us ever existing, but that miracle has happened, at least on planet Earth, some 7+ billion times. You know, um, and then I think I'm incredibly fortunate to be born in the time that I am, in the culture that I am. So I don't, I don't want for anything incredibly serious. I don't want for food. I don't want for shelter, etc. And not all of that to do with my family. That is just the happenstance of me being born in Britain in the late 1960s, etc. But I am incredibly fortunate, and I think so many of us think that we've constructed our reality,
mm,
and that it's all down to us. And specifically in American culture, there's a lot of people who are successful financially, who believe they've built their companies all by themselves. But when you boil it down, uh, hardly any multimillionaire entrepreneur has built their has built their industry, built their company, sorry, purely by themselves, because they were some broke, working class person. They've always built on the assets and the luck and the fortune that they had.
mm,
Number one, that they were born in America, so that gives you a massive head start over somebody who's born in Sudan, let's
mhm,
say, who might want to be the next Elon Musk. That they had parents that it invested in them emotionally. I don't necessarily mean financially, but I
mhm,
do. But emotionally as well as financially, they went to a great school, etc. The role that the state plays in helping to nurture entrepreneurs and whatever is incredibly profound. So it's just that I just think that I'm aware of all this stuff, that I'm incredibly fortunate, that I can travel the world, do what I want, um, because I was born where I was, to the people who I was born to, that I could receive, in the great scheme of things, a tip top education. I didn't go to any Ivy League university or anything like that. I was kicked out. But in the greater scheme of things, viewed by most people on planet Earth, I had a tremendous education.
mm.
You know, um, you know. So I'm incredibly fortunate. And when you boil it down, the element which is truly me, which has given me the unique spark to do what I've done, is such a minor part. Such a
Is it
minor
even a part? Because I'll even push that to a provocative place and say, is there any part that we should take credit for? If you think of it through the lens of what you're saying, right? Of like luck, fortune, the universe playing out as it is, even because like where a lot of people would go is, I'm not saying necessarily for you, but maybe like the grit, the determination to maybe overcome challenges, right? Is something where you made a decision to do that. Therefore, you should have some pride and take some credit in that. Sometimes I wonder if you really think about it in the literal sense of how the universe formed, like even you having that grit was the result of some lived experience that you didn't choose or some genetic
part.
past thing that you didn't like, all of it, anything that you accomplish in life. You could make an argument that says you should have very little pride or responsibility. Like you should be total gratitude and fortune because you could kind of trace it all back to the Big Bang ultimately and some sequence of events that are beyond your control.
You know, I wouldn't disagree with that, and I wouldn't argue against you. And but I think it, as a parent, you really then realize that you're just custodians. You're custodians of that unique spark, that big bang, and you need to help nurture and guide the next generation for them to be able to take their part in this cycle, which is, existence.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
um, so I wouldn't disagree with you. I think if we turn around and say that none of us have any free will, that everything's all predetermined, right? You might end up in quite a dark place, right? So
Which might
so
be the real
you
place, but it is dark.
you know what? It could well be the real place.